Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another showing of the Atheist Experience, and welcome to 2005. It is January 2nd, 2005. Another one under the belt.
Do you remember when it was 2000? Everybody was like freaking out there was going to be this gigantic computer disaster.
Oh, I know. I had this teacher actually when I was in college who constantly went on and on about the uprising and the calamity. I love that word, calamity. The calamity that was going to ensue from the computer shutting down in 2000. So yeah, that's a few years ago.
And also all of the end of the world predictions. When I was host of the show back in those years,
the
we did a
Rapture
segment. Yeah, we did a segment called the Rapture Report, where, you know, every week it would be the latest predictions of the impending demise of the world, and then as each day came and went, we checked them off the list, and that we went on for slightly over a year, and boy, people just kept insisting that the end was really going to come, even though every single example of a prediction ever turned out to be completely frickin' bogus.
Yeah. I remember discussions of this one lady who had like 10 predictions.
Yes.
As each one failed, she said, okay, I redid the calculations, it's actually 2 months from now. And then wait 2 months, and oh my God, I was wrong again. But it went on and on and on.
The Earth is many, was it, billions of years old? You know, it hasn't ended yet. Everybody relax.
Probably not going to happen in our lifetime. And then I remember also near the end of 2001, I think we had some guy calling the show saying, you know, the world's going to end this year at the end of 2001. And we were like, okay, why? Said, well, there was all the predictions it was supposed to end in 2000. It didn't happen, so it's got to be this year. So we're like, okay, no, I don't think you understand the fundamental problem with the year 2000.
Oh, boy.
People are worried about.
These numbers don't mean anything, people.
It's just a convenient way to tell the time.
And the Earth just orbits around the sun. It's been doing it for billions of years. It's going to keep on doing it.
For another few billion years. The current estimate is about 5 of them.
There are actual potential risks, right? But we're talking about things like major meteorite impacts. Asteroid impacts. That, you know, we ought to be, instead of trying to funnel government funds into religion, we ought to be funneling some more government funds into astronomy, because astronomers are the people who can actually see an actual impending problem if there's one going to happen. They don't have nearly enough money to track all of the objects floating around in the solar system, and but they could. It wouldn't take that much more money to track all these damn things and figure out if we really are in any kind of potential danger.
A large portion of the actual asteroid research and watching and monitoring is actually done by backyard astronomers. Somebody who just goes on mail order, orders an 18-inch telescope.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. But we need, our world needs a big project of tracking all of these near-Earth objects.
Yeah.
An
actual, real potential threat.
Yeah.
Versus God said it would end.
Yeah.
So. Whew. But anyway, we made it to 2005. 2004 is over with now. Say goodbye to that one. Anyway, welcome. This is the Atheist Experience. We're being sponsored by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. We have weekly meetings every Sunday at Crescent City Beignets, which is on 6th Street, a couple blocks west of Lamar. I think the actual address is 1211 West 6th Street. Those start at 11:30 and go on for a couple hours from there. It's very open, very informal. Any atheist-friendly people, more than welcome to come on down and meet some of us. Also, a couple other things that we do. Next week, actually, for members of the ACA and especially board members, next week is going to be our board meeting, which will be at 10 a.m. at Dario's on 6th Street. Also, it's actually east of I-35. Board members, if at all possible, try and be there. ACA members, you may come along and sit in and listen. You can't actually vote or anything like that. This is just a normal board meeting. Also, the week after that, the third Sunday of every month, we have our lecture series at the Austin History Center on 9th and Guadalupe. I know that we have a speaker lined up for this month, but I did not actually get to print out the notice of who it is. I want to say it's Don Baker for some reason.
No, Joe Zemecki is our next speaker.
That's right, Joe Zemecki. He's talking about atheist activism. He has been doing quite a bit of activism for about the last 10 years.
Yes, he's been working with American Atheists.
American Atheists and such, yeah. And he was a big member of the group for a while. He co-hosted the TV show several years back.
Before I was on it, he was the co-host.
Yeah. So he's been a member of the group for a long time. He moved away, went up to New Jersey, and I believe he's coming back to Austin sometime quite soon. But he's going to be in town next weekend doing the lecture, or in 2 weeks doing the lecture, which is not the 9th, but I guess the 16th. 16th of January.
Wow, him and Ray Blevins were
they
weren't actually
people. Well, no.
There was when the show first started up.
Yeah.
Boy, I don't remember exactly who was on it, but by the time I started paying attention to it, they were the host and co-host.
Yeah.
And they were awesome.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
I think the first time I watched the ACA is where Ray Blevins was in the middle, you were co-hosting to the right, and they had the actual handoff microphone for you becoming host. That was the first episode I watched. I remember that.
Co-host.
You were co-host, becoming host.
Was I? Oh.
I believe.
Who was in the third seat?
Can't remember.
Martin?
I think it might have been Martin, it might have been Vic, I can't remember.
Boy, we've been at this for a while now, haven't we?
Yeah, I think the first show was actually October 97. So,
2005 now. 2005.
Long time. 8 years now.
And again,
so
so many morons out there thought something terrible was going to happen just because we got the 3 zeros in the year. Good grief.
So, okay. Also, regular things that the ACA does every Thursday night. We have Atheist Happy Hour at Antonio's Tex-Mex on the southbound feeder of I-35 just south of 183. That starts at 7:30 and goes pretty much until we decide to leave, which sometimes is 10:30, sometimes is 1:30. Last time I think it was about 1:30 or so.
Amanda and I didn't stay that late.
Yeah, it went on for a while. It was a good night though. So again, that's Antonio's Tex-Mex, southbound feeder of I-35, just south of 183 at 7:30 every Thursday night.
And that, we call it happy hour, but I just want everybody to understand, this is in the restaurant part of Antonio's. It's not actually at the bar. You can order drinks if you want, but it's a dinner.
Yeah.
It is a dinner type, socializing event.
Didn't have any better name for it, so we call it happy hour.
There's happiness. Don't get me wrong. It's just not necessarily alcohol induced.
Exactly. All right. What else do we have that is the usual things? I think that is about it. One last thing though. What we have been doing after the TV show, after the live TV show, is a few of us will get together for dinner at Chili's, which is also on the northbound feeder of I-35, just south of 183. It's the southeast corner of 180 of that intersection. It's Chili's. The show goes off at 6. We usually get there around 6:30, 6:45, and we'll have a sign on the table. So if you want to come down, meet some of the cast and crew, and us on the TV, you can certainly come down and check us out there. Again, that'll be about 6:45 at Chili's. And again, that's after the live show, which is every Sunday. So if you're watching this as a repeat on Tuesday, don't bother going down there.
They can go wherever they like.
At least not to
we
try
won't be there.
We won't be there. But you still may go and enjoy the fine food there if you like. All right. I believe that is it for our regular announcements. Though I do feel like I'm forgetting something.
Audio show.
Audio show?
Yeah, if you wanna. We've been on. I know. Oh God. So we do this audio show. Some of us in the ACA do an audio show.
You and Russell.
It's up in the air right now. Let's just not say anything more about it till we get a decision.
For a little more insight into that, if you go to our website, atheist-community.org, there's a link to both the TV and the radio show pages there. So you can get a little more information there.
Yeah.
All right. That is it for our announcements. This is a live call-in show. We're going to be getting callers in just a little bit. But first, we got one or two news stories to hit and see.
Well, let me do this one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm in a bit of a silly mood today. But this is kind of serious. The show is called The Atheist Experience, and often we're asked why we're here, and we say, just to educate people about atheism. But I kind of like to think of the Atheist Experience show as an opportunity for people out there to get an understanding of what life is like for atheists, about how we see ourselves treated in our culture. And I have a little news story here, which is an excellent example of the way that religion gets an easy ride in the media.
Okay.
That, reading between the lines of the media coverage, you can see that the easy ride wasn't actually deserved. But here we go. This news story says, religious affiliation may lower suicide risk.
Okay.
Now that's something that's going to have Christians jumping up and down, hugging, not just Christians, all religious people jumping up and down, going, "Yeah, we knew it all along that what we do is so good." Here's the news story. Depressed men and women who consider themselves affiliated with a religion are less likely to attempt suicide than their non-religious counterparts, according to new findings.
Okay.
The problem is that paragraph is a lie. And as I go through the rest of the story here, I will show you how it's a lie. Quote, if someone acknowledges being religious, all else being equal, and remember that line, folks, all else being equal, they are at lower risk to act on suicidal thoughts than someone who does not acknowledge religious affiliation, said study co-author Dr. Maria A. Oquendo. In the current study, Oquendo and her colleagues at Columbia University in New York City examined the influence of religious affiliation on suicide attempt in a study of 371 depressed inpatients at a psychiatric institute. About half of the study participants had attempted suicide at least once in their lifetime. Specifically, 48% of patients affiliated with Catholicism, Protestantism, Judaism, or other religion reported having attempted suicide, 48%, compared with 66% of those with no religious affiliation. Okay, now here's where the story falls apart. They started with people who were already depressed inpatients at a psychiatric institute.
Okay.
That is their sample size group.
Okay.
There is nothing here to indicate how religious affiliation affects the odds of becoming a depressed inpatient at a psychiatric institute in the first place. Now, I'm not making a claim here, but just to explain how this study completely fails to show anything useful. If it were to be the case that having a religious affiliation doubled your odds of becoming a depressed inpatient at a psychiatric institute in the first place, and that's not a claim, just a for instance, right? If that were the case, then it would be irrelevant that 48% of those patients that affiliated with religions attempted suicide and 66% that didn't affiliate with religion didn't attempt suicide, because there'd be twice as many of the religious affiliated patients in the first place. So this study actually shows absolutely nothing.
Twice as many, but the percentages are still there, though.
But it doesn't matter, because what you're if the religion drives you to becoming a patient in the first place, then that 48% carries twice as much weight.
Yeah.
Right? That's my point. Now, I'm not making any claim that that's the case. My point is they're looking at this subset, not factoring in how religion might affect them, people getting into that position in the first place, right? I mean, I'll bet you anything, even if the percentage of of patients at this, of depressed inpatients at this institute just reflects the general public. Well, only 15% of them were non-religious in the first place, right? Or non-theist in the first place. So, and that's all I'm saying. If that shifted a few more percentage points in favor of theists, just that little bit,
because their sample
that would
size
weight those. That would weight the meaningfulness of those odds.
The sample size is relatively small.
It's not just that the sample size is small; it's that the way that you got to be in the sample in the first place is not being addressed.
Yeah,
it proves nothing. Nothing. More, and more importantly, we were discussing this before the show. This does not factor in what those non-religious people thought in general about life in the first place. And speaking as a member of the atheist community of Austin, we are well aware that our culture is full of isolated atheists who have no support structure, nothing to, no other people to talk to about, well, if there isn't a God, then what does life mean? Why are we here? What is, the purpose? Why should I stay alive in the face of adversity?
You're getting the message from the religious people that without God, life is meaningless.
Right. So another thing that's not addressed in this study is, of those people who were psychiatric patients, what percentage of them were connected with, in communication with, other atheists who had thought these things through and have well-formed understandings, justifications for being alive, reasons to be happy, and which ones weren't. You say somebody is an atheist in this country, the first thing that means is that they're generally isolated from the support of friends and family. Not because, not because they tend to be more depressed, not because they tend to be more suicidal, but because they're not part of this big aspect of our culture, which is religious affiliation, right? Okay, it gets worse. Upon further analysis, Oquendo and her team found that attempted suicide was most common among patients who did not think suicide was immoral. Now, this is a whole other issue, right? And there are perfectly reasonable views on the acceptability of suicide on both sides of the issue, right? There are people who are against it for purely religious reasons, and there are people who are against it because of social reasons, and there are people who are for it for social reasons, for medical reasons, for all kinds of reasons. So that this factor alone, now even assuming that religion doesn't have any impact at all on the odds of becoming a psychiatric inpatient who's depressed, right? Even if that doesn't make any difference at all, now they're saying, well, it's not that the people who are religious necessarily are any less interested in killing themselves. They just don't because they're told that it's bad, right? Which is not, being told that something is bad is not the reason not to do it. It's, maybe alerts you to maybe there's actual reasons, but then you look at the actual reasons before you decide what you're going to do.
It'd be interesting to know possibly what the quality of life of these people were. Because if you do decide that because I'm religious, I therefore can't kill myself because that would be against God or whatever, if you then continue life for the next 5 years bedridden, is that a good quality of life?
Right. Well, I would kind of assume that religion doesn't play a part in that. And the odds of winding up bedridden.
No.
Maybe if you're one of those snake handlers.
Yeah. Not quite my point, though. If you have two people, one religious, one not, both in the same position.
Yes.
And again, they've got some bad disease, they're going to be bedridden, crippled.
Sure, right. They're both people in the position where they might be interested in assisted suicide because their life horribly stinks and they can't take it.
My life is essentially over. Therefore, I decide to kill myself rather than having to go through the medical pain and all of that.
Right. Right.
the quality of my life.
I bet you anything the show was going to turn out to be about that, about assisted suicide. Now, which was not the point of this article, but now we've brought it up. Okay, so then here's the end of the article, right? This is where the Dr. Oquendo wraps it up. She says, these findings suggest that asking patients about such topics, religion, and supporting their involvement with their religious group may be protective against suicidal behavior. Well, that is actually a conclusion that the findings described in this article supports, right? Because, just because of this thing where, well, if they're in a religion that tells them that it's bad, they might not do it just because they were told that it's bad, not because they really enjoy life or really wouldn't rather be dead. But that is at odds with the claim in the first paragraph of the article, which is that simply being affiliated with religion makes you less likely to attempt suicide. This article shows nothing of the kind. There's one other comment in here which I thought was interesting. The doctor says, it does not appear to make a difference which religion they state their affiliation for. Okay. So for those people who think, listening to this and think that this is proof that your God is somehow helping preserve life for those people that believe in him, no. Not necessarily. Doesn't matter what religion they're in. And again, getting back to my other point, it may well be that if this study had gone further and divided those people that didn't have a religion into those atheists who were part of, extended groups of friends like the ACA or other atheist organizations that do have an ongoing dialogue among us about what is the meaning of life? Where do we get our purpose for going on, right? What is the difference between right and wrong? We talk about that all the time, and we have a non-theistic basis for making those decisions. If you divide people like us from isolated atheists who got nothing to go on, but just hanging on by the skin of their teeth, I would be not surprised at all to find that folks like us are as unlikely then when we get down to those odds, are as unlikely to try to kill ourselves as religious people are.
That also goes back to the last paragraph there that you were saying, where doctors saying that if they encourage their religious activism, for lack of a better word, that could prevent them committing suicide in the future.
But what is that? That puts psychiatrists in the position of proselytizing.
To a certain extent, yes, but the way it's worded there is if someone is already religious, encouraging them to say, you keep going to church.
That's a good point. So I'll withdraw that accusation against this particular physician. I remember reading an excellent article in the Lancet, which is a medical journal. Okay. It was a study of various claims that prayer is medically effective. And the article went on for several pages, examining the studies, examining their methodology, and finding huge flaws with the way that those studies were conducted. Yeah. But then at the end, after having concluded these studies do not actually show any meaningful evidence that prayer works in the first place, then they went on for a few paragraphs talking about how it would be unethical for doctors to do anything with the information, even if it had been shown that prayer was medically effective. Yeah. And the reasoning was this, right? They used an analogy. They said, it is known that if you are married, your average life expectancy is longer. But it would not be considered ethical for doctors to tell their patients that they ought to go get married. Whether you get married or not is a personal decision that is none of the doctor's business. Yeah. Same thing goes for religion. Even if it were true that prayer was medically effective, or that religious affiliation made you less likely to kill yourself, the idea of physicians doing any, encouraging non-religious people to become religious for that reason would be unethical. But there is no evidence that those claims are true in the first place. So, luckily, it doesn't come up. So that was fun.
All right. We can go ahead and put the phone number up. Again, this is the Atheist Experience. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, please go ahead and give us a call, and we'll get you on the air. Also, one thing that came up on our, we have a general public list for the group, Ask an Atheist. It's a Yahoo group. And basically, anyone is allowed to come on there and basically just ask a question. What's the atheist perspective on blah? And basically, a couple of us monitor that, and we'll just go ahead and reply and get into discussions there.
And that's an excellent place, by the way, where lone atheists who have never talked with other atheists and had a chance to hash things out, they come in there all the time and say, I don't believe in God, but what about X? Yeah. And that person gets a bunch of responses from atheists who have been meeting multiple times a week for years now. 97 to 2005, that's
8 years.
8 years. 8 years? 7 years? 7 years.
Depending on when it started.
7 years just doing this show, plus the ACA was around for a while before that. We've had a lot of time to think through these things. And
February, actually, I think.
February is the anniversary?
Yeah.
That would be the full 7 years.
That's when we incorporated as ACA.
Oh.
February of 97,
we must be getting up near 10.
So, well, if it was 97, then that would be 8 years in this February.
But that's just the show, 97.
No, February of 97, ACA incorporated. October is we started the show.
7 years.
So. But we've been around for a while.
It has been. It's starting to seem like a long time.
Atheist Community of Austin, and this TV show has definitely been on the airwaves for quite a while. But anyway, getting back to my original point.
I'm sorry.
We're in a reminiscing mood today.
I am. It's New Year's. We're getting big round numbers that are starting to frighten me, and
we're not going to have to do a Rapture Report with one of your predictions, are we?
No, I'm not. I'm actually not afraid.
All right. But anyway, they were talking about the tsunami. And what are some of the religious explanations? How can somebody look at this tsunami and say there is still a God and God still loves us all? Basically, how can you justify that with a tsunami that kills 100 and I think it's 50 or so, 1,000 people, something like that?
Well, they were mostly other religions, and so they were sinners, and God killed them.
That was part of it.
Sorry.
That's
my first guess.
Again, there was a discussion on the email list about, how are religious people going to justify this. And, excuse me, one of the members posted a handy-dandy little list. The 4 most common ways that things are justified. 1, God is smarter than we are, so he must have had a really good reason to let this happen.
A really good reason for killing 150,000 people.
Exactly. So,
Gee.
If you hunt deer, then they're less likely to starve to death. So there's a good reason. So for something
a dead deer is a dead deer is a dead deer.
Yeah, something is going to
kill
happen.
It yourself?
Something apparently.
I guess we do that though, don't we?
Yeah, that's one of the justifications for hunting. Is that they would all starve anyway, and pass disease and get in car wrecks. But anyway, apparently still God has found some kind of justification where killing 150,000 people is okay in comparison to blah. Now, an interesting thread that came off of that a little bit. Or actually, it's one of the other points here.
Can we respond to these one by one, or do you want to go through the list?
No, go for it.
My response to the first one, I think, would be, but if you're going to kill 150,000 people just so the rest don't starve, and you're a god,
whatever the problem is,
and you're a god, then what you do is they all drop dead painlessly.
Yeah.
Just instantly, because you wave your magic fingers. Right? Yeah. And you don't destroy vast food supplies that are being stored because you leave the people that survive with all this, with a lot less food reserves, plus, property damage, and, the simple pain and suffering of those that did die.
Yeah, the loss.
So, So you'd not only have to use the culling the deer herd argument, you'd have to use the culling the deer herd argument and further explain why not only you want to kill off some of the deer so the rest don't die,
but also napalm the forest.
Yeah, you also want to drop an atomic bomb on the forest where the deer are living. So the remaining deer get to stumble around with radiation sickness.
So anyway, that was the first one. God's smarter. There must be a really good reason that we just don't know about.
No, not buying it.
No. 2, God is angry, so we must not be religious enough. That's kind of the one that you said earlier.
And certainly, if though there are Christians in India, I don't know what the percentage of the population is, but it's enough that it causes some strife, because I hear news stories about it every once in a while.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know what part of the country they live in, so I can't correlate the deaths with the locations of the Christian Indian populations.
Yeah. So.
Still, that's just frickin' creepy.
Yeah. You don't worship the correct God, therefore he smites you.
Yeah, I thought he didn't do that anymore. Then there's another response, at least to Christians, right? I thought your God promised he wasn't going to do that kind of thing anymore. Wasn't that what the whole rainbow at the end of the last gigantic flood was all about?
Not necessarily. He wasn't going to wipe out everybody.
Okay.
He didn't do that. He's okay.
All right.
3, those who died either deserve it or are better off in heaven anyway.
Yeah, no, not true. Not true. Because when a huge wave is going to come crash down on top of you and drown you, it doesn't stop to ask, oh, wait, are you enjoying life? No? Okay.
Yeah. I fail to believe that all 150,000 people who have really bad lives all of a sudden congregate in Sumatra to be wiped out at one time for a mass suicide type thing, or euthanasia by God.
Sumatra.
Okay.
Not India. Okay.
And finally, the last one. God saved this one person way over here because she was faithful. Behold this wondrous miracle of his divine mercy. That's pretty common.
And incredibly sick.
Exactly.
Incredibly sick.
Exactly. God would find some way to save this one person over here.
If some cosmic entity drops an atomic bomb on the forest where the deer live, and one of the deer happens to be behind a big rock and survives, it's luck.
Yeah.
It is luck. It's not, boy.
Yeah.
Now, the deer gets lifted out by a helicopter before the atomic bomb. Then the God specifically meant for that deer to live.
Yeah. So there are religious people out there who could justify things in many, many, many strange ways. And again, another point that was brought up is people are thankful. My grandmother wasn't killed or something like that, and she was out there vacationing.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
So,
it's that kind of thing.
They're thankful because their grandmother wasn't killed or whatever, and she was vacationing over there. So, praise be to God for not killing her. Well, what about him killing the other 150,000 people?
Yeah. What about the sadness and tragedy of the families of all those other victims, assholes?
Exactly.
How dare you call the survival of of a tiny percentage of the potential victims a miracle? And how can you thank the God for their survival? He just murdered 150,000 people. Wake up.
Yep.
If he existed. Now, luckily for us atheists, giving you the Atheist Experience perspective on this, we don't believe there is such a guy.
Exactly.
We think this is a horrible natural tragedy.
Exactly.
There's nobody to blame. It's just a tragedy, and now we got to go in there with aid. That's if our country is able to dig into its pockets to produce any, instead of spending it all on a big party for George Bush. It's time to go in there with aid to try to, pick up the pieces and move on.
Yes, thank you and praise be to God for not killing everyone. So
disgusting.
All right. Anyway, phone number is on your screen. If you got any questions or comments, please go ahead and give us a call. Let's go on to the first one. We have got Chris. You there?
Hi, I'm here. Yep.
Okay. What's up for us?
Just to comment first on the idea of us agnostics or atheists being more likely to kill ourselves. I submit that probably more intelligent people are more introspective, and that perhaps that may have something to do with it. But what I was really calling about was I face this every day, and I work with people every day, and there's a lot of religious folks and you get the feeling that in Austin, or at least in northwest area where I'm at, that there is such a Christian cronyism and so much support for them that I'm wondering how atheists can combat that or have such an affiliation that they have. There's one thing I do admire about the people that are going to different churches. I just can't bring myself to lie to them and to myself in order to go and pray and fake something. But I would like the sort of fellowship that is available to Christians in this city, hopefully through atheism or agnostic.
That's what the atheist community of Austin is here for.
Okay.
Right. I mean, that's what our organization is here for. We hang. It's a bunch of atheists that hang out with each other to provide that kind of that kind of friendship and support.
Yeah. The structure that we have, the pattern that we do, is not like religion. We don't go to church every week. We don't have a sermon or anything like that. But it's still just a group of people who are, again, of like mind, and basically just talking about things. And again, it's mostly just a group of friends. It's religion and stuff like that does come up once in a while. Large percent doesn't, though. So
just sort of a Socratic dialogue between people. And
this morning I found out that this guy I've known for 7 years has a parrot, and he was telling me all about his parrot. I mean, that's just it's just social interaction, friendship, and but then of course, like I was saying earlier, we also do get into philosophy. We talk about science. We talk about meaning of life kind of things, intermixed with eating donuts and drinking coffee and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds very, very good and amicable. I wanted to say a couple things before I hang up here. First, this is such a great thing you're doing, and I want to thank both of you for getting up there and taking a pie in the face from all these callers that come in every once in a while. I know you guys get it sometimes. And I want to address this comment to Christians who might be watching, and I wish I could tell the world, and I'm telling as many people as are watching now, that if somebody is agnostic or atheist, would you rather that we lie to you and lie to ourselves to go to your church, or would you rather we be honest and live our lives that way? And I think this is something that a lot of Christians don't realize, is that guys like me and you don't really focus on them for who they are, but I can't feel compelled to lie in order to get along.
And I think that's going beyond where they think possibly you are. Now, on one hand, I can accept and understand what they're doing. They believe that they have the answer. God is going to give you a purpose in life. He is going to make your life better, and so on and so on and so on. You haven't found God. You have doubts and questions, so come to church and we'll get those answered for you. Versus I've thought about these things and no, I've come to the logical conclusion that there is no God. They're just assuming that you have questions. And so church will answer those for you, and you will find God and you will be happier and so on. So on one hand, I can kind of respect what they're doing in the sense they're trying, it's an honest effort to help. Going about it wrong, and I don't agree with their conclusions. I guess to a much lesser point, when somebody, a random friend or somebody says, "God bless you when you sneeze," I take that at face value. It's just somebody wishing you well type thing, and that's fine. So, Merry Christmas.
I have one other comment on that, is that I think that, I can't speak to what percentage of Christians this applies to, or people of other religions. We always got to put that caveat in there. When I came out with my atheism to my parents for the reason that you give, caller, I just got tired of lying to them every time they'd call and ask me where I was going to church, right? And I didn't actually lie. I evaded. I said, well, I haven't found one yet. I didn't explain that I wasn't looking for one. But, that I respect my parents. I wanted them to know what I actually thought. And the biggest friction that has come from that is not my parents telling me, oh, well, we're worried about the fate of your eternal soul, which is what Ashley was talking about. The most friction has come from my mom basically saying to me, oh, Jeff, how could you tell me that I'm not going to go to heaven and be with your grandmother forever, right? It's there, when you're in the realm of faith, when there's stuff that people believe just because they believe it, and the only justification they have for believing it is constantly rubbing elbows with other people that believe the same thing, meeting somebody that doesn't believe it is quite a shock. And if you have a lot of your self-worth and sense of peace tied up in that, then it can be quite painful to deal with the existence of people that don't believe. Because that might lead to questioning, and that might lead to not being able to rely on that particular crutch anymore. So I have a certain amount of pity for Christians who, when I reveal my atheism to them, are personally hurt, because they only get to believe, they largely get to believe just because nobody ever questions it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we have a website, right?
Atheist-community.org.
Atheist-community.org, which is on the banner back there, which you can't read, but maybe they'll bring it up on the screen if you want to contact our group caller.
And
still there? I guess we lost him.
Okay.
That was Chris. Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, so I believe that caller's gone. Just strangers on the phones. Yes, we do have atheist-community.org, so if you want to see our website, we've got information about what our group does and stuff on there. It also has a good fact link, so any questions or anything like that can also go to the fact. Many of the things that we get on the TV show are answered there, and quite well done, too.
Can I make one more comment?
Sure.
I mean, this sort of got back to this whole question about lone atheists who don't really have any fully developed worldview to rely on, just because they're isolated from other people that think the same way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the reason why, when we encounter Christians, they immediately start, saying crazy things to us like, well, haven't you ever heard of Jesus? Well, of course we've heard of Jesus. You can't take 5 steps in this country without bumping into, some Jesus reference.
Yeah.
But I think where that's coming from is the vast majority of atheists in this country are still isolated, don't have opportunities to develop their worldview, don't have opportunities to develop good responses to Christian claims.
Yeah.
And that is yet another good reason for, if we have any lone atheists out there, organizations like ours provide an opportunity for everybody to sort of, compare notes, figure out what makes sense, what doesn't, what's effective things to say, what aren't, kind of among ourselves figure out what life should be like once you've decided not to believe.
I learned a lot and was able to express myself much better once I was a member of the group for a little while, because I'd always had doubts and questions before, but I never really had the time and the people to debate with and talk about it with to really expand on it. And so while I didn't believe in a God, I didn't have a really good reason for not believing. So it took a while to develop that.
Yeah.
Now I host a TV show. So anyway, phone numbers on your screen. Go ahead and give us a call. Let's go on to Ravi. You there?
Yes. Hi.
Hi, Ravi.
Hi. I guess I'm Ravi, and I'm an atheist.
Okay.
Really enjoy your show. I've been watching it for several weeks, and thanks a lot for having the show.
Thank you.
Thanks for
I
watching.
find it really interesting, and I'm always learning more. a previous caller called in and mentioned about what can atheists do for community and fellowship, more like in a church setting.
Yeah.
And I suppose other than the atheist community of Austin, I think another choice could be, I don't want to proselytize for my church, but but there's a large bunch of atheists who go to any of the Unitarian churches in town. There's, I think, 3 or 4.
Are there really? I thought
I didn't think there were that many. But.
That's useful news to me. I've been meaning to check that out because I've heard that there's a whole other atheist subculture over there.
Yeah, there's. I guess I've been a member of Unitarian churches in various different in 2 other states, in Illinois as well as in Indiana, and in all those places there's usually a large number of atheists, humanitarians, and there are also people who believe in God too, of one form or another. And some Christians too. So,
and you don't get into fist fights.
Well, at least the Unitarian Church, it doesn't really have a creed. The only thing it says is to respect each other's beliefs.
Yeah.
And things like you can read about it on the web. But
okay, sure.
But it's pretty easygoing, and the ones that are going to that church, who are theists, tend to be pretty, I guess, liberal-minded and open-minded enough to realize that they don't necessarily have the truth, but they just choose to believe what they believe. That's my experience with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easygoing there, and we hang out. And as far as having a real church community type of setting, it definitely is like any other church, other than that.
Yeah, I know a few people in the ACA have been over to the Unitarian Church and given lectures there and stuff like that every now and then.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well,
I've been meaning to check that out. There's also, up in Dallas, there is the North Texas Church of Freethought, which is actually an atheist church. Yeah. They have the same kind of church-like meetings with, presentations that you can call sermons if you want, and there's songs, and they have child care for people that want to bring their kids, and I did drive all the way up there once to check that out. It's not my cup of tea, and actually I know several people in our organization that are rather rubbed the wrong way by the idea of mimicking the church structure. Yeah. But I thought it was entirely valid. I mean, if people want to have a more formal expression of their shared views, that's a perfectly valid way to do it. Yeah. And thanks for plugging your Unitarian church.
Sure, thanks.
Yeah, thanks for calling.
Bye.
I haven't been to the Unitarian. I have heard about them, though. Same with the Dallas group, basically, North Texas.
Yeah, we did. This is probably 5 years ago now. Did a big caravan all the way up there, like 6 of us, to check it out. And it's interesting.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't like to do it just because I have bored memories of how dull church was when it was religious.
Exactly.
And I'm a little concerned but personally, I'm concerned that I wouldn't be all that.
I could see the lectures being a bit more interesting, but still, I enjoy the ACA side where it's more of a casual get together.
It was,
discuss and talk.
The way I see it, I mean, we got few enough opportunities for atheists in this country. I don't see any reason to criticize any kind of form that an atheist group wants to take.
And if that's what works for if that's what works for them, go for it. So, excuse me. Yes, if I am coughing during the show, my apologies for that.
You are.
Yeah, I know. Bad hay fever and allergies have been keeping me down for the last couple days, and it's getting a little bit better today, but just a little bit. So here's something I can go over really quickly while getting 1 or 2 calls in. Fox News, not our usual news source, has a story saying usually at the end of the year they have the top 10 news stories of the year, and it's usually not the best of news. It's always, here's the biggest murders and the school shooting and the economy's failing and whatnot. This is actually their list of saying, hey, why not have some good news? So they have the top, or not 10 or anything like that, but just plain old, here's some good news in general. Now again, how reliable this is, I don't know. I haven't looked back on the actual studies. They do have links to it from the article though. America's kids are all right. Juvenile violent crime has fallen every year and nearly have since 1995. Teen birth rates are at a 20-year low, and high school dropout rates at a 35-year low. America is healthier. Life expectancy.
I need to interject before we go on with this.
Okay.
After studies showing that people who get their news from the major news media in general and from Fox News in particular tend to have the least accurate worldview, I feel it incumbent upon me to mention that there are darn good reasons not to trust Fox News. Now, when you said before the show, Ashley, that there were links to
to the actual studies and whatnot.
Yeah, and in order for me to be persuaded by some of these things, I would have to follow those links, read the studies, and also find out who put the studies together and what their motive is, because it's all too common for interest groups that are allied with the Fox conservative agenda to reference one another as if they're authorities just to make it look like they're telling you the truth. I don't trust Fox News, and I don't trust the motive behind their wanting to tell us good news. I want to hear good news, but I need to hear it from someplace where I can take it seriously.
Yeah. Now, the counterpoint to this is that they're going to have a slightly harder time if they want to sell the whole position that the world is going to hell in a handbasket since we have tossed religion out of our schools, for instance, in the last 5, 10, 20 years, whatever, and we need prayer back, we need the Bible back in our schools and education, and we need the Ten Commandments posted everywhere because just look at how sucky this world is now.
Yeah, but, there's all kinds
of own sources.
But there are all kinds of ways they can spin that, Ashley, at the same time that they are claiming, on the one hand, that the world is going to hell in a handbasket. On the other hand, they get to talk about this big religious revival our country is undergoing, about how much more open people are being about their religiosity, about how much influence religion is having in our government, and they can piece any two bits of claims together that they want to spin it however they want.
Yeah.
So, what matters to me are what the actual facts are, and the problem is I just can't trust Fox News. Yeah. I just can't. They have shown themselves to be big, fat, stinking liars way too many times. Yeah. You should go through the. You can go
and
through
actually look through them and see what they actually show in the studies.
Yes. I think that when you hear something from Fox, it requires a bit of independent verification.
Yeah.
Because, it used to be that news organizations took that responsibility on themselves to double-check the things that they were saying before they said them. But that was before Fox came out as a conservative machine to support the conservative movement in this country.
Yeah. Although some of these things I have heard from other sources here and there, I just remember other.
I'm sure some of it's true. I'm sure some of it is true.
So yeah,
I just don't trust Fox News.
Yeah,
I don't trust their motives in telling us these things. I don't trust. I can't trust all of it just because some of it is probably true. Yeah. But they're big fat stinking liars.
Going back to the religious side, saying they love to be able to position things as either the religious people are the persecuted minority.
Yeah.
Therefore, we need protection.
Yeah.
Or, look, we are the majority. Therefore, we need to have the Ten Commandments.
Right.
We should be allowed to have the Ten
Right.
Commandments.
We should get to have it because we are the
we're the majority. So we should get what we want.
Did you guys on previous episodes of the show ever talk about this crazy shit that went on this past December about saving Christmas? You ever talk about that?
I don't think we talked about it on the show.
That was another crazy thing that some, not all, Christians were doing for the past few weeks, is claiming that somehow people not saying Merry Christmas but saying Happy Holidays or season's greetings was an attack on the holiday,
attack on
a secular takeover of Christmas. there was this song, Happy Holidays, Happy Holidays. I know that goes back at least to the 60s. What is wrong with you people?
Yeah. But then again, I have heard that kind of thing every year.
Have you? It was really, really shrill this time.
It was a little bit louder this time.
Wow.
But I mean, every year I remember hearing a little bit of the Christians getting really annoyed saying, no, this is Christmas.
Yeah.
So it's Merry Christmas, not Happy Holidays.
Yeah, which is incredibly ironic because you can trace this holiday all the way back to the annual celebration of Zagmuk in ancient Babylon, where the king would be sacrificed so that he could go and join with Enlil and Enki and the other great heroes of their mythology to fight the winter monsters, so that winter would end and they'd have spring again. And then one smart king said, "I know. Let's just every year, instead of killing me, we'll get like the worst criminal from our prisons and dress him up as me, and for a few weeks." Actually, for 12 days, he'll get to pretend to be king.
Okay.
And then at the end, you kill him, and he goes and helps the great heroes fight the winter creatures. And apparently, the heroes of their mythology were entirely cool with being sent the worst criminal that they could find in their prisons every year to fight these monsters. But I can just see at the end of the Babylonian era, these angry old conservative Babylonians going, well, they don't kill the year king anymore. The prisoner dressed up like the king. In my day, we do that every year. They've lost the true meaning of Zagmuk. The Christians took over the holiday from pagan festivals that came before. Christmas has nothing but a history of changing and mutating and being handed off from religion to religion for many, many thousands of years. And for people to get up in arms about it this year, as if as if it was going to be some great catastrophe, even if nobody ever said Merry Christmas ever again, and it just turned into this, time of year where part of the country gets snow and everybody exchanges gifts, and it has no religious significance whatsoever. All it would mean is it had mutated again, and there would be no huge disaster.
Yeah. Going back to that story you're saying, the only line that keeps running through my head is, it's good to be the king.
It wasn't good to be that one. Not particularly good to be that one.
Let's get a prisoner in here. We'll kill him. He's like me. I'm not going to die.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Again, phone number is on your screen. If you got any questions or comments, we are live today. It's January 2nd. So if you got any questions, comments, anything like that, go ahead and give us a call, and we'll get you on the air.
We had a caller a second ago, and he's gone away.
Yeah.
You want me to do another news? Do you want to do news?
If you have news stories, hit it.
I didn't mean to completely stop you from reading the good news. I just wanted to make sure that there was a moment of skepticism before going through all this stuff. Why don't you?
Okay. We'll go ahead and hit a few more.
Okay.
Again, if you want to search for this article, it was actually on the Fox News site. The title of the article is 2004, The Good News. So if you want to search for it, the actual article, it has links here to all these different article studies, whatever, that give more details on this. So that's the kids were all right, juvenile crime is down and such. Teen birth rates are at 20-year low.
One hopes.
America is healthier. Life expectancy in the U.S. is an all-time high among pretty much across the board. What is this? Incidents of cancer have dropped every year since 1990.
Oh boy, but may I make a comment? Because I know for a fact the United States does not have the highest life expectancy.
Yes.
But
if it's going up.
You'd think, well, going up is good, but it's going up kind of across the board. The good news would be that we're no longer like third or fourth, that we're now second. That would be especially good news.
Yeah. So. America is cleaner in terms of environmental. Every major air pollutant...
No thanks to the Bush administration.
Every major air pollutant has dropped dramatically since the 1970s. U.S. water has been getting steadily cleaner for the last 20 years.
Yeah, I way don't trust their report of that news.
the world is freer, the world is healthier, which kind of goes back to America maybe third or fourth, but the world in general is getting better.
Yeah.
World is getting cleaner, world is less poor, and so on.
Yeah.
So generally, I'm sure there is some good news out there if you want to look for it. If you want to be doldrums.
Sure there's all kinds of good news everywhere.
So anyway, we've got callers lined up, so let's go to Gary. You there?
Yeah, hi.
Hi, Gary.
I've got a couple of comments if you got time.
Yeah.
Sure.
Earlier you were talking about the tsunami and whether that's God-induced or not.
Yeah.
And
well, not so much God-induced, but what are the explanations? Assuming there is a God who allowed this to happen, what is his reasoning?
Yeah. And,
Right.
and one thing I think we can say for sure about it is it wasn't prevented by a God.
Yeah.
We
Well,
know
yeah,
that,
and kind
we
of
know
what
that for a fact.
what I wanted to comment on, you were saying that somebody believed that their grandmother or someone who was over there survived, and they thought, oh, well, God saved her.
Yeah.
And that kind of made me think of, at least I see this as related. It might not seem so at first, but I was drafted during the Vietnam War,
Okay.
and I had religious parents, especially my father, and he would, and I ended up being sent to Germany rather than Vietnam,
Okay.
even though I was drafted and probably would never have been drafted if the war hadn't been going on. But anyway, so I went to Germany, and my parents' explanation for this is, well, God is watching over you. He protected you and sent you to Germany instead of Vietnam.
Yeah.
And even then, I thought, wait a minute, I would have to be incredibly selfish and arrogant to think that God saved me and let 59,000 other guys die over in Vietnam. And why didn't he save all of them, or why didn't he prevent all those people from being drafted, or why didn't he prevent the war? I mean, how far do you want to go back? You know?
Right, exactly.
He is all powerful. He should have been able to do those kinds of
There's
things.
a huge
but
failure of imagination on the part of religious people, I think, because they can't they don't seem capable, and I'm generalizing here, I apologize to those people for whom this is not true, but they seem largely incapable of imagining all the stuff that the God could do. You know, I mean, okay, I'm sorry, and I know I interrupted you. Go ahead, please.
Well, it's just that even then, and I certainly feel the same way. But even then, I had this overwhelming. Wait a minute. I mean, it just seems so. I would have to be incredibly selfish and arrogant to actually believe that.
Yeah.
You know, and I know there's a lot of religious people who look at it that way and don't see themselves as being that. But why would he single out one person or several people to save and let everyone else die?
Again, they're just not willing to flip over that coin to see what's on the other side. Yeah. God saved this one person. That's great.
Yeah.
Don't flip over the coin and see that he had to kill 30,000 people to do it.
Exactly.
You know, to make the situation
especially
such
if he's there and could have prevented it, as you said.
Exactly.
And another comment I had was you were also mentioning the power of prayer.
Yeah.
And what I have to say about that is I do think it's been shown that if a person, it's what I would call a positive thinking. If a person wants to go on and believes that, and whether he succeeds in this by, even if he is a person who believes and prays and gets positive results, of course, then the religious types will jump on there and we'll see God answered his prayer. Well, what I think that is if he believed that it would, then the positive thinking is what helped him out. Because if there's people that are just ready to go and let go and don't have the will to live, I think that really can affect them dying faster.
The thing about these studies, though, and you got to be extremely careful listening to news like this because it's heavily spun in order to make it seem more valid. The thing about these studies is they are conducted by people who don't want to find out that it's just a question of positive thinking.
Yeah.
What they want to find out is that there's some magical, miraculous thing happening that if person A prays for the recovery of person B, then person B gets better more likely than if there had been no prayer. Yeah. And so that is what these studies are attempting to show. And every time that I have read sober analysis of the studies, it has revealed massive problems with the way those studies were were organized. You know, how they selected their subjects, how they isolated the subject from the knowledge of whether they were being prayed for and by whom, and all those kinds of things. Methodological flaws.
Well, again, to me, it just seems like if a person believed this, they'd have to be incredibly selfish and arrogant, because it's as if they think God is sitting there saying, "Oh, well, if you pray to me, then I'll save you. But if you don't, then I'll just go ahead and let you die."
Yeah.
I mean, what kind of a God is that? If they believe,
again,
is that the God they want to believe in?
Yeah. Again, that's the flip side of that coin. God is not standing there watching them; He is off doing other things.
Yeah.
And so you've got to say, hey, down here, please,
right,
little help.
Even though He's omniscient and knows everything,
exactly.
Somehow He can get distracted.
He can still get distracted.
Well, we can go on a great length about how this doesn't make any sense.
Well, I have one more comment,
okay.
And I think it's related. It's about funerals in this country. Well, and not just this country, everywhere, I guess. But first of all, I'm not going to be buried or cremated, because I'm going to donate my body to science. Because for one thing, it might help people, and for another thing, I think it's free.
Yeah.
And I highly resent the funeral industry in this country, which to me makes their thousands of dollars preying on people's religious guilt.
Yeah.
You guys agree with that?
I would tend to agree, yeah.
In general, I think donating to science or something along those lines would definitely be a better choice.
Religious people at funerals, crying and sobbing and all the kind of stuff that you see going on at funerals, and I say to myself, wait a minute, if these people are religious, they're saying they believe that there's life after death, and why wouldn't they be happy that their loved one who is now deceased has gone on to live in a better place? If they really believe that, why all this moaning and groaning? They're either hypocritical, or else, in other words, they don't really believe what they say they believe, or else, again, they're being selfish, more concerned about their own loss than the fact that this person who is supposedly gone on to a better place.
Yeah. Well,
just one of the dozens and dozens and dozens of problems that comes up where if people actually believed all of this, they would behave in a different way. Again, going back to...
I think the Irish have the right idea with the wakes and whatnot. There's party and celebrate a person's life instead of going up and moaning and groaning.
Yeah, just like Andrea Yates or something like that. Again, if you honestly believe that your kids are going to grow up and there's a really good chance that they're going to go to hell, it seems that the best thing to do is kill the kids early before they have a chance to ensure that they go to heaven.
We are not suggesting anybody actually do this, because we don't believe that religion.
We don't believe any of this
We're just
stuff.
following it to its logical conclusions.
Exactly. If you take this, what religion says, and just run with that idea a little bit, you come up with these conclusions that most people don't do.
Yeah.
So just like you say, crying at a funeral, you should be happy for them.
Exactly.
They are not having any pain. Even if you could say, look, they were a person in their prime, they had a great life, and they were hit by a bus or something like that. Heaven is still supposed to be infinitely better than anything possible on earth.
Yeah.
So they're still in a better situation than they were.
Well, no, actually, I can't. I should probably justify this a little bit. If a child is killed, or a person in the prime of their life, even where they had productive life yet to go, then I can see some expression of grief, especially a parent for a child. So I don't want to belittle the kind of grief there that might be expressed. But for a person who has, in most cases, people who have lived their life, and we're all gonna die. I mean, we try to pretend in this culture that that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But we all are going to go someday. It's just a question of when. And I think when a person's life is over, we shouldn't at all express the kind of behavior that is normally seen at funerals.
Yeah.
I probably should have said earlier, I would make an exception where a child is concerned.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I'm not sure I accept your basic premise, because I'm pretty excited about things that are happening in the scientific research of life extension, and I don't think it's at all necessarily inevitable that people have to die, and I think death pretty much sucks, and I'd like to see it done away with.
Well, I mean, yeah,
but that's different from just convincing myself it's already gone. like religious people do.
But if a person has lived, 70, 80, 90 years, whatever, and
Right.
in this culture, that's considered normal, and they're probably there. And if science comes along and figures out a way to double that or extend that or whatever, I'm all for it.
Yeah.
But because I'm human too. But I think we would normally accept that a person has probably lived their normal life, and since we're all going to go sometime, we think that's probably more acceptable.
Yeah.
Than, but like you say, if it's a child or a person in the prime of their life who gets in an accident or something, then some grief expressed by their family members would be acceptable.
Yeah. But no, I mean, good point in the beginning of donating your body to science. Hopefully get something useful out of it rather than just throwing it in the ground.
Exactly.
So.
And I mean, people who have been saved or have their lives extended by organs that would otherwise be thrown on the ground to rot. I mean, to me, that seems. I'm not in favor of making that mandatory, because I understand some people would be appalled by that.
Yeah.
But I think we ought to educate people better, so maybe they'd come to that. Maybe they would come to that conclusion.
That's pretty much, I think, always the answer is more education.
Yeah.
When people make informed decisions, it doesn't mean they necessarily all make the same decision, but at least they tend to be less crazy decisions.
Yeah, better informed decisions are always better.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thanks for your call.
Okay.
Actually, I have one more thing. It's totally unrelated to that, but goes back to something else you said earlier.
Okay.
Talking about how far Christmas goes back.
Yeah.
And I think, again, education. I think a lot of Christians don't realize that what we actually celebrate, we call it Christmas, but first of all, no one knows when Jesus was born, and by that I mean not only the year, but what time of year.
Yeah.
I mean, December 25th, that's arbitrarily picked by who knows who.
Actually, it wasn't all that arbitrary. That was the birth date of a previous Messiah called
Mithra.
Really?
Yes,
and so,
it was a taken over pagan holiday.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't have said arbitrary. Actually, it's also tied to the winter solstice.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's ultimately the reason why Mithra's...
Isn't it 3 days after the winter solstice, at a time when they had determined that the sun is turning around and coming back now, so let's celebrate.
Right.
Exactly.
And then the Christians just kind of, instead of fighting that, they just kind of gave into it or took it over.
Definitely.
And claimed that to be the Christian holiday, even though it goes back, like, as you said, thousands of years.
Yeah.
And Saturnalia and all that.
Exactly.
Okay. Well, great talking with you guys, and I'll let you go and let somebody else holler for a while.
Okay. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Excuse me. All right. Also, a quick reminder, we got about a little less than 20 minutes left in the show, but we are going to be meeting at Chili's after this. So, again, anyone who's watching wants to come down, meet us at Chili's, which is on the southeast corner of I-35 and 183. We'll be there around 6:45 or so. Any atheist-friendly people, more than welcome to come down. We're not looking to be proselytized to. And again, that's if you're watching us live on Sunday. Tuesday reruns, we're not going to be there. Anyway, let's go on to Jay. You there?
I've got a question.
Okay.
And I don't know really how to express them.
All right.
But what I want to do, and go back to give you a little bit of history. I am have my genes are like from the American Indian.
Okay.
What is it? I used to go when I was a kid. I went to church all the time, different churches than my mother and them. And anyway, after a while, I got away from it because became too. All they begged for was money.
Okay.
So I walked away. Even when I was small and during that time, I had visions, different visions.
What do you mean?
Things that I could see that people didn't see.
Uh-huh.
I could meet you in a crowd, and I could read something from you that you might not see within yourself or know what's going to happen to you. This has happened, and it's true. I've done it so many times, it's not funny. I've had people approach me and said, "Oh, you read?" And I said, "Oh, well, the book's good. I play real dumb." And I've done it for my own MD. He didn't believe me. sure enough, it all hit him upside the head, and then he called me on the telephone later 2 or 3 times. What else do you see? So don't ask me what visions mean or why. And I don't know that if this has going back to the people that I've met that do have quite a bit of Indian in them.
Yeah.
They have the same, some of them, I would say a great deal of them have the same, I don't know if you want to say knowledge or whatever the God it is.
Yeah.
But I've done this, and I've gone through it so many times, and I even went through with the shrink one time and told him something, and he looked at me, and he just says, oh, well, walked away, and when it came true within about 3 weeks, my phone rang during the night. He woke me up.
Okay, sir, here's what I recommend.
Yeah.
Do you got access to the internet?
No, I don't have computer.
Find somebody that does, and do a search for James Randi, R-A-N-D-I. This guy is a former stage magician, and he's got a $1 million prize for anyone who can prove, under scientific conditions, that they have any kind of supernatural abilities, like the ones that you're claiming to have. If you would like to have $1 million, you contact that man and you work with his team to set up a valid scientific experiment to prove the existence of the abilities you claim. And if you can prove them, they give you $1 million.
Well, it's not just with everybody.
But if you're asking us to believe that you have some kind of special powers, what we're going to ask you to do is prove it. And not only is there a way for you to do that, there's a way to do it and make money at it. So, short of that, we're going to sit here and shrug our shoulders and say, it sounds like we got a kook on the phone.
Well, I'm going to disagree. Wait a minute, just listen to me.
Okay.
Well,
because your other, but not you, but the guy that you're taking the place of, that's been on the show before.
Uh-huh. Do you know the name?
I don't remember his name. He's been on there 4 or 5 weeks in a row. That, let's just see what happens.
What do you mean?
Well, you don't believe me, but I just see a bad image that comes within the background behind him. When he's
some guy, so something bad is going to happen to some guy who you can't even identify? This proves nothing, sir.
So was on this show?
No, he's the other host that comes on this show. He's been there before you were here the other week or so.
I'm the normal host.
I know the bald-headed guy's always on there.
Yeah. So you're saying not me.
Not you, but the other one.
Okay, so...
when you can identify the specific person you think something bad is going to happen to,
I don't remember names.
And when you can identify the bad thing that you think is going to happen to that person, because, people live their lives and day after day after day goes by, and every once in a while bad things happen. So a general claim that some bad thing is going to happen to, say, Ashley, is always going to come true. That is not proof that you have any kind of special powers. I could say some bad thing will happen to you, and I'd be right, because eventually...
You can give me a date.
You didn't give us a date.
I said within 3 weeks.
Within 3 weeks?
Sure.
Yes, something bad will happen to you within 3 weeks. Absolutely it will.
No, it won't, because it won't let it.
You're not going to stub your toe. You're not going to misplace your socks. Nothing bad at all is going to happen to you in 3 weeks. What a charmed existence you lead, sir. Come on.
Oh, well, okay. If you don't believe it, you don't have to. But
the point is, and I'm sorry being tough on you. Okay.
No,
my point is, it's very easy apparently for people to convince themselves that they have spectacular powers like this because you're making these incredibly vague predictions. And then patting yourself on the back when they come true. What you need to do to prove that you have actual abilities is make specific predictions. Things where you can actually be tested on them. Things where, it's not just the normal course of affairs is going to result in some bad thing happening to some random person in 3 weeks. Of course it will. That doesn't prove anything. Plus there's James Randi. I hope you win $1 million.
Would definitely be helpful.
Okay? Thanks a lot for your call.
Because you're the one that's ignorant, not me. Because when it happens, like I'm trying to tell you, I don't see it until what I'm saying to you is I can meet anybody and something happens. And that can prove it through a friend of mine, through a physician, When she told him something, he laughed at her.
Okay,
well, again,
fine. So there's you have a claim you can't prove except by getting
It's
some
not
other
with
person.
everybody. It's not with ignorant people.
That's not my fault.
Right.
That's not my fault.
Yeah. Again, proving something under the scientific standard doesn't mean that they're going to say, give us a prediction about this guy right here, right now. They can work with these things. So again, I definitely get in touch with James Randi.
Yeah, they'll let you pick the person. They'll let you pick the person that you want to make a prediction about.
We have heard that, this isn't about the money, it's not for personal gain and such. If that's the case, hey, there are a lot of charities out there that would be glad to have $1 million.
Don't give him ideas of how to weasel out of this, Ashley.
So whatever. But yeah, go ahead. That is something that we would definitely like to know about and, have studied. And if this is something that some people have this ability, we should know about that. That's great.
We're just not going to take hearsay, and we're not going to take untestable claims. That's not. We're not being mean to you by doing that, and we're certainly not being ignorant. We're actually doing the smart thing, which is waiting for actual valid evidence.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've just suggested a way you could become a millionaire. Please go do that. Okay.
I don't need the million. I already got it.
See,
again,
there goes the excuse.
No, it isn't. I don't mean that if I was, because I already planned to give it away to the Austin Society.
Fine. You another $1 million. Think how much good you could do with that, even if you don't want it for yourself.
It's the ability of other people there, and there are some. If you go listen and study it under
this is enough. Please.
Okay, we're going to go ahead and let you go at this point.
Go prove it to James Randi. Give them $1 million away if you don't want, but we're not going to believe you just because you say so, and not just because your friend says so.
Yeah. But thanks a lot for calling.
See ya.
But as with, I can't speak about Native Americans specifically, but it sounds like just like any other psychic. Usually, either they make so many predictions that some of them are bound to come true just because if you make 150 predictions about this year, a couple of them are going to be right. The other 145 may be wrong.
This guy's taking the other tactic, which was incredibly vague predictions. Some non-specific thing is going to happen to some non-specific person in the next 3 weeks. Well, of course it will. Yeah. Of course it will.
We will be on the lookout for any very unusual bad circumstances to our male co-host, because it did say him, for the next till the end of January. And
wait, is there only one other male co-host?
Russell and Don.
There's two.
So there's two.
So no, I'm sorry. This is not a test. It means nothing. No matter what happens, this is not a test. It doesn't mean anything.
This is not a test.
I want to mention one of my gifts that I got this holiday season was the DVDs of the first two seasons of Star Trek. Which was keen, and there's the famous episode called Where No Man Has Gone Before. It's the one where the Enterprise is trying to find out what happened to the spaceship that went outside the edge of the galaxy, and they find out if you go out there, the people on your starship that have a little bit of psychic power get really, really psychic and go nuts and kill everyone.
Wow.
Now, on the DVD version, there's an option to turn on these text commentaries.
Okay.
By people that worked on the shows. And I was incredibly pleased to see in the text commentary to that episode, and when the characters on the show were explaining that this guy's got psychic powers now, the text commentary said, back in the 60s, there was a lot of active research into the paranormal and a lot of hope that there would be something discovered. Yeah. But in the through the decades that have followed, it has become clear that there's really nothing to it. And
wow.
That was great to see.
Wow.
That was great to see.
Surprisingly forward of them.
Yeah.
But, all right, cool. Anyway, a couple minutes left on the show. Phone number's on your screen.
It just saddens me so much the way that people can delude themselves.
Yeah. That's a little bit vague.
So I don't want people making fools of themselves. I don't want that for anyone.
All right. We're going to go ahead and take a couple more callers before we get out of here. Let's go on to Chuck. You there?
Yeah, I'm here. How's it going, guys?
Okay, what you got for us?
Well, first, on that last caller, I got to say, being part Indian myself, even a blind man will hit a bullseye on a dartboard if he throws enough darts.
Yep, exactly.
So,
or if the dartboard's big
taking too
enough.
much peyote and not enough, helping drugs there.
But I'm glad to hear that he's already a millionaire. Because,
hey, if he needs to give that $1 million to somebody, guys, let me give you my address, and he can send that right here, because I could definitely use it. So, but what I really wanted to comment on was I think we can all agree that religion pretty much started out as a way for the hierarchy to keep the common people down. You know what I'm saying? To keep control. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, that's why I think the main reason for it.
Can I just make a comment?
Sure.
I think I've said this before on the show. As a person in the entertainment business with parents who are ministers, I have an insight which I think might be helpful here, right? When I watch how my parents prepare to run their church meetings, it's clear to me that what they are actually really doing is entertainment. And the only difference between what they do and what I do is they have no idea that what they're doing is just entertainment.
Right.
They think it has some kind of greater validity. So my suspicion, I used to agree that I thought that this was just clever people noticing that human beings are easily manipulated,
right.
intentionally putting together these mythologies and religious structures in order to control people. I think that came second.
Right.
I think first you got guys doing entertainment and noticing that they could get other people to treat them better because of their ability to entertain.
Right.
I really think it started there, and all this other hogwash about organizing the control structure that comes with it. I think that came second.
It was fun storytelling.
That's my theory.
Right. Because
it's really hard to imagine.
I think it kind of evolved to the point now where I don't think people are willing to take responsibility for their own decisions in their lives. So if you believe in God, if you make a bad decision in your life, you can say, well, I obviously made God mad or something, and now I'm being punished. Or if you make a good decision, hey, thanks, God, I really appreciate you looking out for me. When actually all it is you make good decisions, you make bad decisions.
Yeah.
Live up to what you're doing with your life, take responsibility for it, and quit using religion as a crutch and a way to explain your bad or good decisions in your life. I think that these religious people are doing that all the time.
And again,
it's the biggest crutch I've ever seen.
Yeah, that does happen. That does happen at times, but I have a hard time generalizing that so many people do it because most people don't.
Well, I agree with him on this one.
I'm not sure. I
there are some
got to
strongly
disagree on
religious
this one.
people in
Actually,
that
I think
area.
they all do it. I really do. I think anybody that's religious is using this for a crutch. Because anybody you talk to that's religious, that always comes up at some point in their life. They always tell you, well, if you don't believe in God, let me tell you something that happened to me. And I'm thinking, okay, maybe you need to just look at the decisions you made in your life.
Yeah.
So,
and sometimes, usually when I'll press that is on the good things. People sometimes don't want to take responsibility. God gave me the power and the fortitude and whatever to get through college, for instance.
Right.
Thank God that I was able to do that.
Right.
Dude, take some credit.
Right.
That's not easy.
Yeah, it's just like when the football players make the touchdown and they, point to the sky.
Exactly.
Come on, dude, you just ran 79 yards
Exactly.
and had 4 people in front of you blocking for you.
Exactly.
God had nothing to do with that. That was you getting in there, you know?
Take a little credit.
I think almost more infuriating about this is their unwillingness to give other people any credit.
Right.
It really annoys me when some guy has open heart surgery and lives, and his family members go along and say, look how God saved his life. No, it wasn't frickin' God. It was the bypass surgery.
Let's thank God, who guided the doctor's fingers or whatever.
Yeah, hundreds of years of medical research by human beings figuring out how to solve that particular medical problem. And they learned how to do it, and then they did it, and you want to thank your big invisible friend in the sky. That really drives me crazy.
Yeah, it does me too. It really does. Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate you letting me through. I watch you guys quite a bit when there's not any good games on. So anyway, maybe I'll see you up there tonight, okay?
Okay. All right,
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot for calling. I don't know how I could handle being a doctor. Now, I'm sure that they get, again, lots of thanks, lots of praise and stuff like that. But just seeing a few people who say, oh, thank God, and God led your hand, stuff like that, it's like, no, dude, I went through 20 years of medical school.
Yeah.
That's what led my hands.
I see occasional indications of religion creeping into medicine, just like this story that I read today where it was psychiatry. But, a doctor in that position has no real option if his patients all want to believe that he himself doesn't really have any medical skill, that it's all the big invisible man in the sky, his only real option, if credit is important to him, is to become like a minister.
Yeah.
You know, to become then a guy who represents God. That's just sick. That's just sick.
Anyway, thanks everybody for watching. It's been another good show. We will be here again next week. And again, any atheist-friendly people, we're going to be going to Chili's Tex-Mex on the southeast corner of I-35 and 183. We'll be there in about 45 minutes. Hope to see a couple of you then.